My wife and I met in college and moved in with each other years before we got married. After school, we both had entry level jobs with entry level pay and settled into a moderate lifestyle. All lifestyles exist on a spectrum, and what is decent to one person can feel like royalty or poverty to another. But at our incomes, we got what we considered a decent apartment, a decent car, decent clothes, decent food, comfortable but nothing close to fancy. Despite more than a decade of raising incomes, myself in finance, my wife in healthcare, we've more or less stayed at that lifestyle ever since. That's pushed us our savings rate continuously higher. Virtually every dollar of raise has occurred to savings, our independence fund. We now live considerably below our means, which tells you little about our income and more about our decision to maintain a lifestyle that we established in our 20s. If there's a part of our household financial plan I'm proud of, it's that we've got the goalpost of lifestyle desires to stop moving at a young age. Our savings rate is fairly high, but we rarely feel like we're repressively frugal because our aspirations for most stuff haven't moved much. It's not that our aspirations are non existent. We like nice stuff and live comfortably. We just got the goalpost to stop moving. This would not work for everyone, and it only works for us because we both agree to do it equally. Neither of us are compromising for the other. Most of what we get pleasure from, going for walks, reading podcasts, costs little, so we rarely feel like we're missing out. On the rare occasion when I question our savings rate, I think of the independence my parents earned from years of high savings, and I quickly come back. Independence is our top goal. A secondary benefit of maintaining a lifestyle below what you can afford is avoiding the psychological treadmill of keeping up with the Jonases. Comfortably living below what you can afford without much desire for more removes a tremendous amount of social pressure that many people in the modern first world subject themselves to. Nassim Taleb explained, true success is exiting some rat race to modulate one's activities for peace of mind. I like that. We're so far committed to the independence camp that we've done things that make little sense on paper. We own a house without a mortgage, which is the worst financial decision we've ever made, but the best money decision we've ever made. Mortgage interest rates were absurdly low when we bought our house. Any rational advisor would recommend taking advantage of cheap money and investing extra savings in higher return assets, like stocks. But our goal isn't to be wholly rational, it is psychologically reasonable. The independent feeling I get from owning a house outright far exceeds the known financial gain I would get from leveraging our assets with a cheap mortgage. Eliminating the monthly payment feels better than maximizing the long-term value of assets. It makes me feel independent. I don't try to defend this decision to those pointing out its flaws, or those who would never do the same. On paper, it's defenseless, but it works for us. We like it. That's what matters. Good decisions aren't always rational. At some point, you have to choose between being happy or being right. We also keep a higher percentage of our assets in cash than most financial advisors would recommend, something around 20% of our assets outside the value of a house. This is also close to indefensible on paper, and I'm not recommending it to others. It's just what works for us. We do it because cash is the oxygen of independence, and more importantly, we never want to be forced to sell the stocks we own. We want the probability of facing a huge expense and needing to liquidate stocks to cover it to be as close to zero as possible. Perhaps we just have a lower risk tolerance than others. But everything I've learned about personal finance tells me that everyone, without exception, will eventually face a huge expense they did not expect. And they don't plan for these expenses specifically because they do not expect them. The few people know how the details of our finances ask, what are you saving for? A house, a boat, a new car? No, none of those. I'm saving for a world where curveballs are more common than we expect. Not being forced to sell stocks to cover an expense also means we're increasing the odds of letting the stocks we own compound for the longest period of time. Charlie Munger put it well. The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. How my family thinks about investing. I started my career as a stock picker. At the time, we only owned individual stocks, mostly large companies like Berkshire Hathaway and Procter and Gamble. Mixed with smaller stocks, I consider deep value investments. Go back to my 20s and at any given point, I held something like 25 individual stocks. I don't know how I did as a stock picker. Did I beat the market? I'm not sure. Like most who try, I didn't keep a good score. Either way, I've shifted my views and now every stock we own is a low cost index fund.